Welcome to On the Bubble Podcast, episode 58. I'm your host, Tsubasa J. Ueda, and with me is my co-host, Yuki Lee Bender. And today, we're just going to be talking about calling Hartford and Battle Hardened Hartford. And I guess I just start off in saying, and congratulations on your win on the Battle Hardened, Yuki.
Thanks. Yeah, it was quite the weekend for me. I'm sure we'll talk about the calling as well, but the calling really didn't go my way. I went 1-3. We can go into more detail about it later, but it was not great for me. And honestly, the Battle Hardened, I hadn't really prepped for it that much. Like, I'd probably played like maybe 20 games of Kayo.
You do know that the set's been out for one day, right? Since you played the Battle Hardened or something like that?
Yeah, but like we've had spoilers for like a while now. Like we've had spoilers for like 2 weeks. So I've been playing with the cards since then. Also, just like, I don't know, like the heroes that I was playing before are all LL. I don't know. Like Bolton is like probably has new stuff to do. And I wouldn't say that I was like a super expert into Bolton. I just played him at one event and did well.
So what made you play Kayo for the Battle Hardened?
I just been playing the deck and it was just a lot of fun. Just like real strong. Before I didn't really enjoy Brute because of the like there's like a lot of variance and it feels like your deck only does cool stuff when you have Blood Rush. I don't know. Like it was just like this really kind of not that interesting class to me. And I hated scabs. I really hated rolling scabs. Like sometimes you could play Leviah, be like a little more aggressive, but then like you just like wind up in these spots where it's just like, oh, it's so correct to roll scabs, and you roll scabs, and then it's just like it happens a bunch. Whereas like in KO, I rolled scabs twice all weekend. One of them was real stupid because like in my head I was like, oh, I can go Savage Feast, but then I discarded the Savage Feast and I just like couldn't play any of my cards, and I was just like, oh, so I just like rolled a 6 and did like one thing and then just passed. I was just like, huh. I rolled a 6 too. Like it was just like so ridiculous.
Oh, so it's like you gave your opponent the jump scare of like, oh, I'm going to do something super cool. But then in reality, it's like, if I rolled a 2 or higher, it'll be the same thing no matter what.
And I just have a chance to like waste an entire attack. So don't do that. But yeah, I don't know. The deck is... I think the deck's like really powerful. And what I would say going forward is like, I don't know exactly where KO falls in terms of like tier or meta, but I think that he is like undeniably going to be like basically like a very high tier deck. And I think a lot of it is just off the back of him, like he just does a lot of things real well. Like he has a bunch of armor, like really good armor. I think Brute has some of the best armor in the game. Guardian as well, and like Warrior's also very crazy, but like Scowling Fleshbag is like such a crazy piece. And Apex Bonebreaker is so good, and Scabs is so good. Like Brute's loadout is ridiculous.
What's the chess piece that we play right now?
Tunic.
Oh, okay. That's a crazy card too.
It is like particularly insane in KO because you kind of like your turns are all built off of 2 costs because it allows you to do like 2 cost claw, 2 cost, and like Tunic can like off 2 blues. So it's like a 5 card hand, at least 15. But you have many things that are like better than 2 for 6s, and you might have a might. Yeah, I don't know. You just have like very, very crazy math. You also block pretty well. You also have very good equipment. You have like a lot of gas. Cast Bones and Blood Rush Bellows are like both very powerful, and you just do like really above rate stuff, like super above rate stuff all the time. Like you just go like maybe you have an agility token and you go like, I'm going to block 2 cards, play my runner from Arsenal, 7 go again, get an agility because I have like a might and agility, and then I have agility for my next turn now, and then I go Tunic swing big or Tunic bare fangs. Like it's just gross, right? Like you're just getting like 2 card 15. You can do like bare fangs swing big. That's like the actual dream. It's like 2 cards, 3 cards 17 with your Tunic. It's just like ridiculous.
Yeah, and you haven't even talked about like the Blood Rush Bellow turns, right?
Yeah, and then you can just do all the usual Blood Rush stuff. It's a little bit different. Like you need to kind of set up your Blood Rushes with agility tokens because like usually Brute can just go like Blood Rush, claw, attack. And that's kind of like what they're built to do. In the case of KO, you don't have 2 claws. So you really want to do like Like if you have like a wild ride in Arsenal, that's fantastic. Or if you have an agility token, that's fantastic because then you can like pretty easily enable your whole turn. But if you don't, it's like a little bit tricky. So you have to kind of set them up more.
Yeah, so it's not as free as in Rhinar, where you just like
Mhm.
play the Blood Rush and it's like converts directly into like an 18 damage turn every time. But in KO, I guess it's a little bit harder to do that.
It's like it's harder, but you can just do like more damage also. Like your
I
ceiling
see.
is higher because like claw attack is going to be better than like claw attack, right? You have like one whole extra attack in there, and considering some of your attacks are like 2 for 8, 2 cost 8 powers, like you have 6 of them with Bare Fangs and Swing Big. Bare Fangs is like arguably a 9 actually because you get the Might token. Yeah, it's just very very above rate and extremely consistent. In terms of like non-6s in the deck, I'm just playing Cast Bones, Blood Rush Bellow, and Reckless Swings, 2 Reckless. That's it. So you have 8 whiffs in the entire deck. Everything else is like a 6 or like I guess like a 5, which still counts as a 6 for all your draw discards. You have access to a bunch of go again if you want it between the agility tokens, Wild Ride, and Pulping. So you can just go very wide and pressure a lot, which makes you like very good and like very solid into Droma, I think. You have like a bunch of poppers and you can play aggressively and you can divide up your damage. Yeah, I don't know. The deck is just very strong. Like it just typically the decks that just do things that are really above rate and they're consistent and can play flexible games are just really strong. It's really hard for that not to be
A good deck.
a good deck. Even if it's not like the most broken deck, it's going to be like playable, like totally reasonable to bring kind of thing.
Yeah, honestly, KO looks like the most. It's like it's functionally the most fair deck, but then it's like each card is worth like 4 or maybe like 3.5 or even sometimes 4.5. So like playing out your raw hands is just super powerful, and because because of how Brute before wasn't that powerful, we get a lot of 3 blocks right now, right? It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's very ridiculous. You can also just play like every hand size. Like you have like amazing 5 card hands. You have like some of the best 2 card hands in the game. I was just talking about like the 3 card hands with Tunic. Like you play every hand size very very efficiently. Like you're just like it just feels like I'll put it this way: you play the deck on Talishar and it tells you your average value per turn. And most games it is in the range of like 16 to 19 and a half.
That's crazy.
Like it's just ridiculous. Like the rate is just super super high, right? And like I'll say like the turns when you just get like 13 or 14 out of your hand, you're just like, yeah, I guess that was fine. Like it feels like not that amazing a turn. You're just like, oh yeah, that was just kind of like, like the floor of my turn. But like when that's the floor of your turn and you can just go way bigger than that, it's like pretty compelling.
Where can we find your deck list for KO? Is it going to be posted on FabTCG? Do you know that?
I would imagine so. I actually wonder if it is up now. I posted it on Twitter. We can put it in the show notes. So it is out there. I believe it's also in the Purple Discord. I put it there. I tried to put it in a few places so that people could see it, but I would imagine that they would publish it. Yeah, there's nothing up yet, but I know that Elo just came in, so I wonder if Decklist will be shortly behind. You would think like the first CC event with the new set they would.
Yeah, that they want to post it up there.
Yeah, especially when like a brand new hero
Wins the Battle Hardened.
wins and goes 11-0, right? Like I didn't lose.
That's fair. It's fair. I guess we'll talk a little bit more detail about the Battle Hardened. So there was 189 players total. It was 8 rounds total. Do you know what the record you needed to top 8?
I believe so. All the X ones were locked, and I believe that I think it was something like 7th through 25th were X2.
Holy, that's a lot of people who's X2.
Yeah, there was like a lot. So you wanted to lose like the last 2.
Yeah, lose your last 2 to get in. Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, it was pretty tough. Number of like very strong players went 6-2. Like I know like there was no. I think Dromai was like technically the most played hero. Overall was like really really flat in terms of representation. There was like a lot of decks being represented a little bit, which was pretty cool to see. And there was no Dromai in top 8 despite being like technically the highest.
There was a lot of Dromai in the top tables, though, right? I was walking
Yes.
around and I just
Yes.
like the top, like, the top 10 tables are, I'm like, there's a Dromai in like every single seat.
Yeah.
Wow, this deck's really good. But then no one converted top 8, I guess.
Yeah. Like I know both Chance and Mara Ferris were Aaron Chance and Mara Ferris, both very good my players that have done very well at the highest level. They were both 6-2, which is like a good record. It's just the cut Battle Hardened is like pretty brutal. I think it was like a 190 person Battle Hardened or something. Like it was pretty big.
Yeah, 198 players.
Yeah, and we played like 8 rounds of Swiss. So
I guess the other question is like the second most represented deck at this Battle Hardened was Victor. Actually, there's 20 Victor players, and that's also a brand new hero. Did you think about bringing Victor to this event?
yeah, I was actually like very on the fence about it. Going into the event, I was like pretty set on Kayo, but in sealed at the calling, I played Kayo and I just had such a miserable time that I was almost just like, I don't know if I want to play Kayo in CC now. Even though the deck is like very different. Like I think a lot of the variants got to me. Losing a bunch of Clash got to me. I also just had a game where like I drew 8 of my 11 blues as the first 8 cards of my deck. So it's just like my first 2 turns were garbage. And then I didn't draw blues anymore. So I just kind of like instantly lost. My equipment was bad. I don't know. It was very unfortunate. I missed a
Yeah,
wild ride in my deck that had like 5 whiffs. So it was just like, okay, we lose here.
yeah, it's like the variants you get in it's like getting mana screwed in Magic, but it happens way less often in this game, but it still can't happen, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like on top of it, my pool was not incredible. Like I think it was possible to D2 with my pool, but definitely like on the weaker side.
Yeah, makes sense, makes
Yeah.
sense.
It's like solid cards, but you don't have equipment. So like not having equipment's just crazy.
Yeah, this format I feel like is the higher. There's like a little bit higher variance in Seal than it is in other formats, but I guess we'll talk a little bit more of that a little bit later. Before we move on, is there anything else you want to talk about the Battle Hardened? Any notable games or any interesting takes you got from the Battle Hardened?
Yeah, so I guess the meta seemed a lot of like what I expected to do well, did well. There's like Guardian, Droma, so like both Victor and Bravo, I think are very good. I think that KO is very good. I think that Azalea is like probably reasonably strong. There actually wasn't that much Azalea, which was interesting. I do think like Warrior is good. Like Dory seems pretty strong. I think there's a lot of decks that you can bring that are pretty reasonable, and that seemed to kind of like bear out in the actual event itself. Very much like lined up with my expectations. Yeah, I don't know. Like all the heavy hitters classes are like pretty compelling, which is cool to see, and it feels like they're compelling in a way that doesn't feel like super broken.
Yeah.
Well, maybe KO. I think if something is broken, it is KO. I don't know if he's broken. Maybe Victor too. Victor and KO are doing some very, very, very above rate things. But other than that, like things are pretty flat. Azalea is really powerful, but I think that she probably has some bad matchups now. I don't know. Like Dromai and Guardians are not great, and there's like 2 very good Guardians. Yeah, I don't know.
Very early in the format still, so more evolvement's gonna happen, right? Like it seems
Mm-hmm.
like there's like a lot more Bolton now. Maybe because you won that event, more people are playing Bolton, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and the third most represented deck was Levia, and it's because
Yep.
Levia got a bunch of new cards with this heavy hitter set too. So like she gets to do more interesting stuff as well.
Yeah, and I think Levia is probably the most difficult one to build as well, just because she already has so many moving parts with like the Blood Dad, and then you have like extra power cards and like Art of War that you want to have in your deck. And so Levia ends up just like having all this different stuff in her deck, and then it's like you also now have agility tokens and like I think just like how to piece that. I looked at a little bit at Levia, like without having played it, and just trying to figure it out seemed quite difficult. There's just like so many things that you could do, and I was just like, I don't feel that familiar with this deck. I'm not like the most interested in it either because I still suspect that it loses to itself. Yeah, I don't know. So I think that there's like potential there, but I'm gonna wait to let other people show me. And at the Battle Hardened, I was not impressed with Levia. She's like pretty powerful, and I think when she's powerful, she's powerful. But I just think that KO is doing a lot of the same things and is just like kind of better because he's just more flexible. He doesn't like you. Yes, you do not get access to Carrion Husk, but you also don't have to deal with like
Blood debt.
blood debt and dying to it. Like Levia's endgames are very weak because she kind of gets like forced into these spots where she needs blood debt, and just like when I was playing the Levias, it just felt like I could very reliably like get them to 20, hit them super hard so that they can't flip Plasmafet. And also like the game is fast enough that like they just don't have that many cards in banish, even if they did Plasmafet, because we're just hitting each other extremely hard. Yeah, you can just kind of burst them down and then you get them into an end game, and like at some point, you're both playing your like 3 card or your like 2 card eights or whatever and chipping each other down. And then at some point you draw cast bones and just like block them out and then claw back, stripping their whole hand, and then you get a full hand, and it's just like super over. So mostly because like if she blocks 3 cards, she dies to her blood debt, right? Whereas you can block 3 cards and then just claw, or you can block 3 cards and just like do something else. So I just feel like KO's endgames are so much scarier than Levia's, and you have like way less variance in your deck. So it's very, I don't know. Husk is good, but like I think that KO is like basically just as above rate as Levia. Like they're both pretty crazy on rate, but KO is just like,
Doesn't rely on blood debt.
yeah, so much more consistent.
Yeah, no, I get you. I played one of the Via in this weekend. The game was not that close. Oh, I guess I should say what here I'm on. I was on Dash, the original Dash, and I'm playing Tree Fog Dash, so just trying to deck people out. I won every game I played. It just I didn't play the Battle Hardened, so I got to play against a lot weaker opponents. It's actually really funny. I'll talk about my CC experience this weekend. I ended up playing the Sunday Rabble CC, which on entry you got the full art Ravenous Rabble, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I also played like one other side event on Saturday night. All 6 of my opponents did not know what I was playing. They were kind of confused why I had Titanium Bauble in my deck. I was playing like Blue Comp to Fight, Evos, and they looked at my loadout and thought it was like a limited deck for a second. I'm just like, yep, yeah, it's okay. You don't have to like be scared of this deck. And then by the end of the game, they're just like, "Oh, I can never beat you." And I'm like, "Yes, like it's if you didn't know how to beat me when we did hero reveals, you don't know how to beat me by the end of the game. It's like it's already too late."
Yeah, that makes sense. And we did see, I don't think quite as fatigue oriented as you, but we did see like I think it was like a slab dash in top 8, I believe. That's like the Easton Douglas dash deck that does have like a full pistol plan and a bunch of D-reacts and likes to play defensively and is always kind of on pistol and items. It's not boosting. It cannot boost. It has generics in its deck, but it's also just like playing value cards like Finals Fighting Spirit, Command and Conquer, those kinds of like just like highly efficient cards. She is also playing that E-Strikes, for example. So she can like block super well and just like kind of mid-range you at the same time.
There was a Dash player who lost their last round of the Battle Harden. It should be on camera. I don't know where to watch these Battle Harden games online, but Nia Tran, who was also on KO, basically playing your deck,
Yeah.
was beat the Dash player on camera in this really crazy way where I was watching Nia's game because I was rooming with him and cheering out my friends. Man, Nia got so lucky on his draw discards and just how the hands like lined up at the very end of the game while he's at like 1 or 2 life. It was kind of crazy. Like he drew discarded a skull crack so then he can swing Mandible Claws, and that forced the Dash player to block with the last blue. Was only had an item left in hand, so couldn't actually do the full pistol plan. And then like a couple turns later, Nia swings with a swing big, and Dromai blocks it out. Sorry, not Dromai. Dash blocks it out and gets the quicken token. And usually when Dash gets a quicken token, it's like atrociously bad, right? Because their pistol attacks for free with Go again, and they can attack again. But the
Yeah.
Dash player yet again only had a red, so didn't get punished and still swung with the pistol. So the quicken token just disappeared. So Nia didn't get punished, and that kept on happening. And on one of the turns that she only had a red to attack once with the pistol, it was the exact turn Nia draws his Blood Rush Bellow. So now he has a 3-card hand with a Blood Rush Bellow instead of a 2-card hand, which lets him play the Blood Rush Bellow. Oh, Nia had so much plot armor that weekend.
Yeah, Nia very powerful.
Anything else you want to talk about for the Battle Harden? Any cool decks you saw?
I saw a Hatchet Dory,
What?
and I saw a Hatchet story.
Wait. Like the hatchets, like the ones that Bolton plays. Isn't that a light?
Yeah.
Isn't that a light weapon?
No. Hatchet of Mind. I'm looking on Fabry. No, it's just a warrior weapon.
Oh, I didn't even know Yodori can play the hatchets.
Yeah, she can play hatchets. But then it was kind of insane because, like, with the agilities, they could just, like, sometimes just, like, swing hatchets, like, 3 times. It's pretty crazy. That's some pretty high value turns, but they had an IP2 at the start of the game. And then something else very bad happened. I forget. I think I drew very well. This is also the game that I rolled the 6 and did one thing in. I feel a little bit bad. That game was like real unfortunate for him, and it wasn't particularly close, but I feel like it was far closer than you would imagine given the things I outlined. And like some of the things that the deck did was like pretty impressive. Like I think he had like he has, I can't even remember. The deck was very weird, but there was like a lot of just like, damn, you sure did just get like 9 value off your like one card or something. Like, okay. That's pretty sweet.
Huh. That does sound kind of sweet. Let's move on and talk about the calling.
Wait. Do have one more thing. I know a lot of people have been interested in KO. There is RTN coming out, and you might be looking to pick up the deck, or you're considering, should I pick up the deck, or should I practice against the deck, and all that. I think the answer is just like, yes, it's probably worth trying the deck. Weirdly, it like reminds me of Lexi. I think it's a lot of fun. Just in the way that you like set up, because you're often like setting up your blood rush with your agility. You have like cast bones into your blood rush if decks are trying to fatigue you. Pulping with like might tokens is pretty crazy. Like I had a cast bones into a pulping for like 12 dominate, so the deck's just like very good, and you should consider picking it up. And if you're interested on how to sideboard it and everything, I'm going to have a more detailed guide on the Patreon, and I will be opening up the tier for kind of like a middle tier that isn't coaching, but gets a little bit of extra benefit. It'll be priced at $12.50, and it will just be things like tournament reports. So I might try and write about the experience as well when I have some time. I'm very, very busy right now with moving, but I'm going to try and get that out there. And I think by the time this episode is out for sure, I should have the sideboard guide there for people if they're looking to try out the deck and get reps in with it.
Oh, that's sweet. That's sweet. No, check us out on Patreon, and also still thank you for everyone who's already subscribed to Patreon. The Discord's been great, and got some really nice feedback there of like, more ideas about draft and sealed and stuff like that too. So honestly, if you're interested, check us out. If not, it's all good too. And I guess then now we can move on to the calling.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. So calling Hartford, I don't have the numbers. Wait, why is there no numbers here?
I used to know. I definitely heard the number and repeated it at some point, but I forget now.
I have this amazing tool called Just Check the Standings. 422 players.
Yeah, and I believe this is after drops.
Yes, after drops.
Which is a huge calling. Like that's on the big side. I think for like non like Pro Tour, etc. attached callings, that's massive.
Yeah, it's from what I heard from the SEG people that was like working on Friday, because man, the lineup for registration and picking up the package was kind of long. They're just like didn't expect this many Flesh and Blood people to show up, and like it just like we had like half the hall to ourselves basically the whole time. Crazy enough, on Saturday they didn't even run a single like on-demand draft for either of the games because they were out of space. Like SEG Con is where the Calling Hartford taking place, and a lot more people showed up for the main event than they expected. It's a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to see the game doing well. I think it makes a lot of sense, like exciting, very exciting time with the new set, but also just like it was a sealed calling, like new set, sealed calling. Super, super exciting. And I think that there was a lot of people who went to this event. Like I spoke to a number of people that went to this event that said that like they would not have been there to play Constructed because like they're just not like that engaged with the game necessarily. But there's a lot of people who are like, I'm gonna try my hand at playing sealed. Like, like I don't take the game like super seriously, but like I'm an okay player and I can play sealed, and like maybe I get a good pool and I have some fun. And it's like new set, so it's just like kind of a fun thing to do anyways. And there's like a bunch of side events you can hang out with your friends. Like it's just like a super appealing event, I think. And I don't know. I just bring it up because I know a lot of people are like, is sealed like a competitive, I don't know, does it have competitive integrity? And like you look at like the top 8 of the calling and it's just like, yeah, of course it does. Like there's so many good players in the top 8. You have like Tarek Patel, you have Michael Hamilton. Like you just like have like so many of the players you would expect to see in top 8 actually in the top 8. And then you also just like had new faces too. Like you had Yuanji in there as well. And then you also just had some new faces as well. Like
Morrison, who won the event. I don't know who he is.
yeah, he was just like kind of, yeah, that's right. Mark Morrison. I was trying to remember his name. He just kind of like came out of nowhere, won the entire event. Good for him. But yeah, that was like, someone new in there. And we also saw, actually my girlfriend top 8'd Ellie, and that was her first top 8. So definitely some new players coming out and doing well. And that's just like really cool. So I mean, like, should sealed be every calling? No, like there should probably be more constructed callings than limited, but like having some amount of sealed sometimes is just good for the game, and it helps more groups of people interact with the game. So like even if you're listening to the podcast, you probably love limited, or are at least interested in limited. But yeah, I don't know. It's just good to give people different ways to engage.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I like the timing of the sealed calling,
Yes.
because it's like week 1 of the format, and honestly, that's the best time to have a limited event in general, is week 1, week 2, week 3. The further it goes, it gives time for people to really solve the format, and once a limited format is solved, I think it becomes a lot worse, because then everyone is just doing what is just like functioning the best thing to do. And we saw that at like the Worlds. Was it Worlds where it was Uprising draft and it was like completely solved almost?
Yeah.
There
It
was
was.
like that was not that good, right? Like drafting
Mm-mm.
a format that's been out for 3 months is not that good.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's like so much edge to get in learning the format quickly, and you get to see like it's also more interesting from like a coverage standpoint too, because like we still have like Road to Nationals coming up, so like everybody's eyes is glued to this calling and just going like, what's good in draft? Like, like maybe I played a couple of drafts myself, but like getting to see it unfold at a tournament is really interesting. So it's like, it just makes for a good event to play in, a good event to like help you prepare for those upcoming seasons, a very like fun event. Like people want to often play limited with a new set, at least a little bit, even if it's not competitive. So I think it just makes a lot of sense. I would love to see them do this, but do team sealed.
Ooh, team sealed is fun.
Yeah, I think new set team sealed, that is peak. I'm hoping that we get that, but this was very good. So
I guess now let's talk about how you did and how I did at the calling. You already said this. You went 1 and 3. What? I guess not why, but like, how did your games go? You said you were not very excited to play KO after doing kind of bad at the main event.
yeah, I think a lot of it was like my pool was fine. It's actually in the Patreon. It was fine. It was not terrible. I think I only had like 5 misses in my whole deck, which is like pretty good. I had some like cards that people traditionally think of as powerful, such as Wild Ride. I confirmed that I really do not like Wild Ride. I definitely whiffed on it and lost a game that I was completely winning otherwise. That was very unfortunate. It was also like I had a full hand, so it was like a 1 and 3 as well. So I don't know. That happened. I think I also lost like every clash that game, or almost every clash, and it was just like it felt like if like some of those things didn't happen, it'd be fine, but they like all happened, and it was just like, this sure is bad for me. Like I don't know, like sure, I guess I lose. I mentioned drawing 8 blues. That was real bad. I don't know. I had like a 1-to-1 game where I just kind of got ground down, and my opponent just had like full equipment. I only got 2 block out of my equipment because I couldn't use the blade break stuff. They didn't let me. And then I had the like adversity agility boots, and that was it. So it's like to get the game down to this like super close 1-1, and then it's just like, man, that equipment sure would have been nice. Like getting like five, starting with like five extra health is like insane, right? Because like if I had like six more health, I'm at like 6-1. Like it's a completely different game, right? But it's just like it's hard. It is hard when you don't have equipment. I don't want to be the person that's just like there's nothing I could have done. But this really felt like an event where it was like I probably didn't play optimally. I almost certainly made some mistakes, but I don't think that it would have changed the outcome of my games given like how things lined up and how I drew. I just like I don't think there was anything I could do to like overcome that, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. So, look, it's still TCG.
Yeah.
There are some times you just like lose the game. You play good and you lose. It's fine. You can't win
Yeah.
everything, Yuki. You can't win everything. Well, because you won three, you got to play the Battle Hardened and win that thing. So you still wait.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter. You still win. You know, like you lost the calling, but you still win an event there. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was felt very good to like have the rebound, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I'm amazed that I went 8-0 also. I felt like there was some games that I like maybe should have lost. I kind of scammed people with it was mostly like the victors. I scammed people with reckless swing a lot.
Reckless swing. Oh yeah, the deal 2 damage. Yeah.
Yeah, it was relevant in every Guardian game that I played. Super relevant, every single one, and three of them I think it dealt lethal, and then like one of them was just like it was just like super instrumental. So
I play a lot of like fatigue style Guardian, and from before we have a couple of good Reinhardt players in Vancouver, and it's always Reckless Swing. Like that card
mhm.
is always on my mind. But I guess if you're playing Kayo, that might not be on your mind because that's not a 6 power, and it doesn't work with Berserk, doesn't work with Cast Down. So maybe they thought it's not in there.
Yeah, like that was like in one case it's like kind of that. It's like kind of that, right? Like there's like one case like where my opponent thought that I had two, or sorry, so knew that I had one, but didn't realize that I had two, and then I double recklessed him and he died. So like he like went down to three, but like three is actually too low. He thought I only had one of them. So like that got one person. There was another time where like Victor did like 10 overpower with the Golden Sun, but I got to survive it because I had a reckless swing, so I could block 7, like a 3 block plus reckless swing on it, and not just die, which was like pretty insane. And then I think I also may have resolved. I think that game that was the game that we went to time, and I had a reckless swing on like my next hand, and he remembered seeing it in my pitch as well. But like that was pretty crazy.
Yeah, well, it's like it's a card where you have to play around it, but sometimes you just can't play around it, right? Like it's
Yeah, and it has this weird dynamic where like if the game goes long enough, reckless swing almost just says that your opponent starts with like 2 less life for each reckless that you have. So if there's like 2 recklesses, like in this case, it's like almost like they just start the game at 36. They like as soon as they get down to 4, like the whole cadence of the game completely changes. They have to kill you probably pretty quickly, or they're going to get reckless swinged. So it just like really changes how the game plays out. It also has interactions into their like dominate and overpower and pummel. Like that came up in my semifinals game. I arsenaled a reckless swing. He attacked with a hammer and was representing a pummel, and I blocked 3, and I think I was at 3 or something, 4 or 3. He pummeled, and then I just got the reckless swing and not die.
that's huge.
Yeah. And then like put him to 3. So then he was then at the point where like if he takes 1 damage, my second reckless swing will kill him, which is pretty rough, right? Like so I don't know. That card was like super, super impressive.
It's crazy that Nia ended up cutting it from his list, but he also still top eighted. So you know what? I don't know which one's correct.
I think there's like a number of ways you can build the deck, and you can kind of customize. You play like so many like 2 cost attacks that like you can change around which ones that you play, and they all have like most of them are 2 cost attacks that do something. So like depending on what you want to be a good into, or depending on what you think is relevant, you can kind of pick and choose. Anyways, yeah, I think that's like more or less all that I have to say about the weekend. It was, obviously a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. I guess I should say I opened my gold foil. I got Golden Iron Song Versus, which is It's a pretty cool card. I now have like both warrior L gloves, which is kind of random.
That is kind of random.
Yeah, it is what it is.
How many gold foils do you have now?
Like owls?
No, just gold foils in general.
Mm,
A lot?
I don't know.
You know what? That's even a better answer than you knowing the number.
I'm not actually sure. I have Voltaire, New Horizon, Heart of Ice Trench, Courage of Bladehold, Iron Song versus Earthlore Bounty. I lost count. I think that is all of them.
Okay, so it's like 7 or 8.
Yeah. And I sold an Alluvian.
Oh, okay. That's fair. That's a fair one to sell.
I may sell some more of them, honestly, but
That's fair. Oh, and you also had the winning the Las Vegas calling. You had the big one.
oh yeah, the Crown of Providence as well. Yeah.
Yeah, Crown of Providence. That's what it was. Yeah. Oh, one thing about the calling. There was a bunch of people who listened to the podcast that said hi to me. That like like I didn't really introduce myself that way, but like they I guess recognized my voice and was like, "Oh, are you Jay?" And I'm like, "Yes." Like, and it was really cool to hear from the people who actually listen and like actually interact with us through the Discord as well.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'm actually trying to think. I don't know if I got that many people that listened to the podcast this time that mentioned it. Well, maybe a few. I had a few for sure, but I kind of didn't talk to that many people this time. It was like a weird.
No, your head
weekend.
down playing game every time.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess I just played a lot of Fab. 11 rounds is a lot of Fab. By the time we finished the finals, they had like basically packed up the entire hall, and I had to. And like once we finished, like I think the judge wanted to go home, and he was like putting on his jacket, and I was like, wait, like I'm supposed to get a gold foil, right? Like where do I get the gold foil? Like there's like the stage isn't there anymore. Like I have no idea where I go. And they had to be like, oh, let me ask. And like, oh, you go talk to this guy. And it was like fine. But yeah, it was a very, very long day. 11 rounds is a lot.
Yeah, well, technically the hall closed on Sunday before your top 8 started.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, like,
and then we stayed there for like that long. Like, and there was a Kasai Bravo game that like almost went to fatigue, and it was like I finished my game, I watched all of Nia's semifinal game, and then I still got to watch like 30 minutes of their game.
holy, that's a long one.
Yeah, it was like super long, and then I still had to play my semis match before I could finally play Majin Caleb in the finals. But I think he had to wait like an hour or something.
That's crazy. But didn't you and Majin Bay play in the final round of Swiss as well?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we played in the final round of Swiss, and then we met in the finals.
Wow, that's you guys are both crazy.
Yeah, he had quite a weekend.
So his only 2 losses of that day was to you and to you.
I guess. Yeah. I think that match was pretty good for KO. I don't know.
Yeah, it looked pretty good for you. You have AB3?
Yeah, you have access to AB3. You're like reasonably aggressive. He does actually get like a few turns for sure. Like you can't kill him quite as fast as some decks, but it's quite hard for him to get damage through in it. And because you have Go again, it's sort of like you present an attack, and if he blocks, you can continue to attack him. Then he'll like leak some damage, and he can only do that so many times. But then if he doesn't block, you can also just kind of like let him take 6 or let him take 9 and then just pass with 2 cards in hand and like arsenal and sort of just like weather the storm because you have access to a bunch of pitch. You're playing like 21 blues, a bunch of yellows. You have Arcane Barrier 3, and it's just sort of like you have No Fear. I actually never drew No Fear in either game, but like if you arsenal and No Fear, you're probably not banishing cards from hand to play it because you like can just pitch those cards into AB instead, and that's more efficient. Maybe your reds. Yeah, No Fear just like seems real good, even though I didn't draw it. You're pretty good at getting aggressive. You can also, there's also like this really sweet interaction where you can discard your wind up to give Mandible Claw Go again as an instant. So you can actually do this during reactions, or you can actually even do this during damage resolution. So after damage has already happened, you can do it before it checks to see go again and give you the action point, and then you will get the action point. So into Kano, this is pretty relevant because in the end game, I was winding up in a lot of scenarios where like Kano was at like 1, or even at like, maybe he's at 2, like whatever, sure. And I claw for like 3 or 4, and he's suddenly a spot of like, all I've committed is 2 resources, and I'm still holding like potentially a bunch of cards in hand. But if he blocks, I can then discard my wind up, continue to hit him, and he's probably not going to be able to block everything out. So you kind of like put him in checkmate scenarios like that. Like I did that, and then I pack hunted him, and then it was just like, oh, I'm intimidated, I can't block. Or I did that and I pulpinged him and it has dominate, and he's just like, well, I've already committed a card to blocks, and now I have to try and go off with 3 cards, and you like still have a card in hand. It's very bad. So I think you're pretty reasonable in Decano.
Yeah, it looked pretty convincing. Like, yeah, it looked pretty convincing.
Yeah, the second game was definitely like a little bit closer. I think there was a spot where he like maybe could have gone for it and won. He didn't, and then he just kind of threw 1 damage, and I got to like wild ride him because there was like no longer the threat. So then I was like, oh, like I had just like passed with the yellow, and then he's just like banish 2 cards, throw one of them for 1 damage, and I'm like, take it, attack you for 6. I have none floating, but like you only have 2 cards left, and you have like a blue, I don't know, you have like some random blue spell in your banish. Like it's not very threatening, and then I get his hand kind of a thing. But yeah, second game was quite close. I think there was like, yeah, I definitely could have lost that game.
I guess other than Flesh and Blood, did you do anything in Hartford?
Not really. Like I guess like went to restaurants like right across the street and in the hotel lobby were like the 2 places we went. The barbecue place across the street was actually very good. A little bit pricey, but very good. Yeah, I don't know. People drafted on, I guess it would be the Saturday. Yeah, that was like a kind of about it. I think a lot of it was just informed by like, I didn't get in until like 10 p.m. on Friday. I think I did like 1 game of sealed. Like we built our pools, we played 1 game, and then we're like, oh, we should probably go to bed for the main event. And then I left on the Monday, so I kind of wasn't there for like super super long, and was playing in the Battle Hardened for a very long time. So I didn't actually get up to very much this time, but what I did do was fun. I still had fun.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, winning the Battle Hardened seems really good.
I suppose.
The how long was your flight? Like, I guess I went, and my trip there was technically 16 hours including layovers, and the trip back was like 12 and a half including layovers. How long was yours?
I think mine were a little bit shorter, but they were still like 10, 11 hours kind of a thing. 10, 11 hours like from when I take off too, not like if you count like the go through security at the start thing.
The 2 hours beforehand.
Yeah, it's just like 13 hours. Like I'm just like literally spend the entire day traveling. It's like you get up early in the morning, you go, you travel, and then you're like, cool, it's 10 p.m. I haven't done anything, and it doesn't feel like 10 p.m. to me, but I'm probably supposed to go to sleep in like an hour.
Yeah, no, for me, like my 16-hour flight, like I got there an hour and a half early, so it's like 17, almost 18 hours just in the airport doing basically nothing, watching a lot of anime, and I don't even have a laptop on me right now, so I couldn't do any kind of like games on Telesh or anything like that. So just like find a place where I can charge my phone, find a place where I can charge my headphones, take a nap, wake up, take a nap, wake up, get on the plane, take a nap, wake up.
Yeah. Yeah, I did a lot of that as well. It was East Coast is real far, especially when you can't get a direct flight.
Even if you can, it's gonna be like super expensive than like trying to get the layovers. Like for me, like cost is like really important for me because like even this trip was like kind of expensive. And Yuki said she went out for dinner. I just didn't because that's just like an extra cost I don't want to deal with. So our hotel had free breakfast in the morning, so I just loaded up during the breakfast and survive the day off that. So that was good. Oh, and I had some of Nia's leftovers.
I heard about this actually. You told me about it.
Nia brought in some like pasta from, I guess, your hotel's like dining area, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you can have this, and I'm just like, oh, it's just leftover pasta. Thank you, I appreciate this. I will eat it. And I ate it, and I'm just like, wow, how much did you pay for this pasta? It's kind of horrible. It was just like very bland pasta. Apparently, there was lobster on it, and the lobster was really good. But the pasta itself was like, because all he had was the pasta left, right? So it's just like,
Right. So it just like didn't have sauce really or anything.
yeah, there's no sauce on it. There's just like, obviously there's no meat, there's no lobster, so it's just like just pasta. And I'm like, why did you even take this to go? And he's just like, I thought you might want it. And I'm like, that's fair. I do appreciate it still, but like, man, this is so medium.
Yeah. Yeah, the way that Nia put it was that whenever anybody had leftovers, they just gave it to you.
Yeah, it was great. I had like Sean's pizza. It was also kind of medium, also because it was a day old. But
Right, right.
except I did get one thing. About a 20-minute walk from the venue, there was this super sketchy Chinese place that I did walk to because I was looking up on Google to see like if there's anything to eat for like very cheap, right? And I just like see this like Google reviews of like, oh, this place is really really cheap and really like has a lot of volume. So I'm like, oh, I walk there and it's like $10 for this like, it's like a to-go container filled with Chinese food essentially. And it was really good and it was like really worth the money. It was in like the super sketchy part of town. I don't know if it's gonna be super sketchy in the morning, but I walked there after like the Saturday main event and it's completely dark. There's like nobody walking in the streets. And like the one person that's like on the streets seemed homeless. It's just like, it was an interesting walk.
I see. That is interesting.
But it was good food. It was good food.
Yeah, I also heard stories about this.
The restaurant was boarded up and like you can't really
Oh my
like
god.
it's kind of sick. Like it was like the rundown really good Chinese place that served cheap food that was like perfect for the area. And you know what? I loved it. So, 5 stars to them if anyone wants to check it out someday.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
quite the event. Oh man. Actually, I'll save it for the sign off.
Sure. The last thing I just want to say is final opinions about this sealed format. Do you have anything to say?
Overall, overall, I think it's a pretty good sealed format. Equipment matters a lot. I really don't like playing brute in it. Yeah, I think that's kind of my thoughts. I'm pretty happy playing warrior, and I really like playing guardian, although I don't think it comes together quite as much. Brute, I do not have a lot of fun with. Is sort of where I'm at. I like brute a lot in draft though.
Yeah, more consistent.
Ellie actually has a bunch of games on coverage, or I don't know about a bunch, but she has like at least one game on coverage where she played a Kayo deck, and it's just like doesn't have Wild Bard or Bare Fangs. It's like doing the Guardian thing. You just like have a bunch of 3 blocks. You have like a bunch of 2 card 7s, and then you can like get agility tokens and attack with your claw or attack with 2 7s, and like you just fatigue people because they just like have to block. Like you're doing way too much damage for them to not block, but you can't actually go over the top. So they just end up like running out of cards because you keep hitting them, and you're like every time you 7 them, they're probably giving you like 3 cards or like 2 cards and taking 2. Like it's rough. So that is the type of brute deck that I like. I feel like consistency in this format is just like so big. Like being able to block 2 card 7s, having enough blues that you don't just like brick, because it feels like if you don't draw a blue and you just have like a bunch of like red 2 block attacks in your deck and you have to block with all of them, it's just like you just like lose. Like it's just over.
That is
Like
over. That is an over spot. Or if you draw like 3 blues and a yellow and they're all 2 blocks, you're just like, oh no.
that is also bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I think my opinions on this format is kind of low. I feel like this format has too much variance for Flesh and Blood, and
Mhm.
playing this game or playing this format makes me feel like I'm playing like any of the other TCGs where it's not like, it doesn't feel like massively consistent. And I think that's because of the clash mechanic, and I think the brutes with the no blocks with the random discards and stuff has a little bit to do with it. The wager has a little bit to do with it because like sometimes it's correct to wager, and then they have the block card, and then you feel like it was not like you just get blown out, and
Mhm.
sometimes you just have to wager in spots like that because then you're trying to rip 3 cards out of your opponent's hand so they can't use their agility tokens. But then you do that, and they have the block card in hand and block out for 7, and they have 3 card hand after using their equipment with their agility token, and then you gave them like a wage might or something, and you just lose the game on the spot. Like the games kind of can feel super swingy, and I'm not
Yep.
too much of a fan on that. Like there was an example of like this one guy I was playing in a side event sealed game, and the game wasn't close. Like I destroyed my opponent as the warrior versus a Kayo. Well, his friend walks up to him and was like, "Oh, how'd your game go?" And he just goes, "Horrible. I lost every clash this game. Me as the
Yeah.
warrior player won every single clash against the KO player."
Yep.
And it's just like I don't have that many like attacks in my deck. It's just like I happened to flip over my 7 power attacks, and he kept on flipping over his 4 power or 5 power attacks that turns into a 6. And it's just like I win. I win. I win. I get an agility token. I win. I get a might token. I win. I get an agility token. Like, and it just like blew him out because I got an agility token. I'm playing warrior. Thanks for the free 1 card 4 with my sabers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like some games can come down to like, oh, and the other thing that I had problems with is twice during the main event I attacked with down but not out for like 8 overpowered or 9 overpowered, and it kept on getting blocked out by just a block card that they happened to draw on that turn. And I'm like, really, dude? Like you have the block here, and you have like obviously the equipment. It's just like you're not supposed to block this out. Like, like, this is supposed to be my comeback mechanic. And it's just like, yep, I just drew the block card here. Like, when I came in for
I
10 overpowered on one of the turns, he had a block card, a 2 block, and he played the instant that, like, prevents 2 damage. And I'm like, what? What is this head on the turn I set this up? Like, this is just not fair.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had some of that as well. I had a game where like I got to an end game. We're both at 1. I get to like, swing 7 a number of times, which should take 3 cards and should put me ahead because then like all he can do is claw and then I get 3 cards coming back. But the issue is the issue is that like I do this and he just has a 4 block and a 3 block. And then I do it and he has a 4 block and a 3 block again. And this happens like 3 times in the game. And it's just like, yeah, okay, I guess I lose. Like, I don't know.
I feel like this format's kind of swingy, and not in a good way that it's swingy. It's like it feels like, oh man, there's nothing I could have done kind of spots where it's like, oh man, like if I knew his hand I could have played perfectly, but because I didn't know his hand I got punished kind of situations. Or like, man, I wish I just knew the top card of my opponent's deck kind of situations happen a lot.
Yeah.
Mostly in sealed. I feel like draft's a lot more consistent, but like in sealed I have these kinds of small issues that like I feel like it doesn't happen in the other formats because there aren't clashes and there's not wagering going on, where like they don't get a benefit for you giving something an on hit.
Yeah. I like in draft that you can just like not engage with those mechanics, which maybe isn't like a great thing to say about the format, but like, you know what card I don't draft?
Wild Ride?
That's true. Also, anything that anything that clashes agility. I do not want that in my deck. I don't even care if it's the 4 block. I don't want it in my deck because like it's happened more than once. You're just like in a late game or you're in a spot where you need a block and you're just like, this card blocks 4, I have to block with it. Or like even if it's like the 3 block ones, the ones that are the 2 for 6s. If you have to block with it or it's correct to block with it and you just give your opponent an agility, especially if you're behind, it's like it just actually loses you the game.
I had exactly the same spot. Even and to in my situation, it wasn't even Clash Agility; it was Clash Might, and I just like my only 3 block in hand, and I'm like, no, I have to give this to him, and he
Yep.
got the Might token, and I lost the game through the Might token. And like the crazy part is because these block cards, like they don't even give you that much of a benefit because like you lose out cards right in your hand, so it's hard to convert your agility tokens unless you're like warrior.
Yeah, it's a format.
It's swingy as hell.
It's very swingy. Draft is sweet. I wanted to play Guardian, honestly. Guardian just feels so it's so weird. I'm like always the person that doesn't really like Guardian. And in this format, I'm just like, can I please play Guardian? It's just so consistent. Everything else is so random.
uh okay. And close out the episode then?
Sounds good. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed our talk about the calling and Battle Hardened Hartford and the KO deck. And, you know, RTN's around the season, RTN season around the corner. So best of luck to everybody as they're, prepping CC, prepping draft, and getting ready for that. So hopefully we can help you out there. If you want to get in touch with us, you can reach out and find us on social media. Jay is at UedaJ, and I'm at Yuki Lee Bender. That's over on Twitter. You can also email us directly at onthebobble@gmail.com and ask us questions there, or you can visit us on Patreon at patreon.com/onthebobble. And that's going to wrap us up for this episode. So thanks for listening, and I hope you have a good night.
Do you have any sign off?
Oh yeah, I do. So I don't know. I feel like you must have heard about this because you were rooming with Sean. But I finish up the Battle Hardened. We get out like super super late. We end up going for dinner just like in the hotel lobby because like basically everywhere else is closed. And what do? I think I like go upstairs to like take a shower and come back down and no. Actually, it's not even before. It's before that. It's as we're finishing up dinner. I guess like Michael Hamilton and Tarek just like rolled dice for their gold foils.
Yeah, I heard about this.
And I think Sean bought like half of Tarek's equity or something and then just like doubled up.
Yep.
Yeah, unfortunately I didn't get to see the roll because other people were like, I need to see the roll. Yuki, pay for me. And I had to sit there and pay for like 3 people. But I could see it from the restaurant. I could see to like where they were sitting. They were just like far away. So I didn't actually get to see the roll, but I got to kind of like see people's reactions. And I knew that it was happening. It was quite funny.
Yeah, all I heard was Sean won a bunch of money that day.
Yeah.
So I guess that means Michael Hamilton lost.
I guess Tarek also got money, right? Because he like technically has like a gold foil plus half a gold foil.
Yeah. So those like Carrick and Sean won the role is what happened. What a sicko. That honestly reminds me of those like the Yu-Gi-Oh days where people would throw in like a pile like a playset of like the $100 staples. You get like 5 people in a circle. The buy-in is the 3 copies of Ash Blossoms or something, and Yu-Gi-Oh cards typically when they're staples are like $100 each, so it's like a $300 high roll of a D20 or something like that.
So it's like Command and Conquers.
Yeah. You just throw in 3 Command and Conquers in the middle, and you roll a D20, and the high roll picks up the whole pile, and call it a day.
Yeah.
Those
I don't know. Card game players love to gamble.
Yeah. Most of the good ones too. A lot of the good players like to gamble too.
That's so true. I think it's because like there's like the overlap of like you're doing an activity which has variance, but there's also a lot of ability to like control or mitigate that variance or like maximize like what you can do given given the odds and whatever. And I think that's like kind of a lot of what is interesting in card games as well as gambling. Although Flesh and Blood maybe a little bit less so, but it does still have elements of that for sure. Yeah, Flesh and Blood has like a lot of like maximizing too, I guess. But yeah,
I don't know. We'll have to see. Oh, okay. I guess that should wrap up the episode then.
yeah.
All right, sounds good. Good night, everyone.
Good night.